I'm a bit partial to a bit of Bake Off, but not to Love Island.
You've got the water bottle and everything. Just says cock on it.
I don't even know what that means, what relevance that is to Love Island.
So then each time you suck from the tea, it looks like you're, you know. Right, our first story of the week.
We're on and ready, rocking and rolling. Pod number 47, the 4Bs. It's myself, Sir Neverlook. I've got Mr. All In. We've got Dr. Evil 10%. And surprise, surprise, she's not here. This is no show. Nowhere to be seen. Yeah. Maybe one day she'll rock up. And she'll show.
Didn't we
I
get
say
a
every week.
Didn't we get a contribution from him?
We did. She must have stumbled across the notes and thought, I'll add this. And so, we do have a story from Mrs. No Show.
We need
to the agenda.
We need some like grand music, like trumpets playing when we go into that story.
We'll talk nicely to the editing team on that one.
Yeah, computer says no. Well, my Bitcoin's been boring, I think, this week. Like, there's so much news could have happened, but then it all, like, nearly all our stories are like, oh, this could have been massive, but it didn't happen. Oh, they're going to ban it over here, it didn't happen. Oh, they're going to regulate it really hard over here, it didn't happen. Everyone's just being pussies this week. So there's lots of big stories in here, but the government's just, I don't think they know what to do. Which, I think, to be fair, they probably got bigger fish to fry right now, and I think they're going, you know what, we're transitioning from this COVID narrative into this war one. We got to get it right. And I think they know they want to come and fight Bitcoin at some point, but they've gone, let's not do it yet. It doesn't fit with war, really, even though they could make it fit, because, you know, if people wanted to help out Russia, like technically the other side, then we could, in Bitcoin, completely bypass all their sanctions. But yeah, I think they've just gone, you know what, leave that fight for another day. Let's just keep it ticking over. We're passing some type of regs, but yeah, like literally even the price, I swear the price is almost the same price to the dollar that it was this time last week. And I actually think I saw a tweet. I don't know whether it was true or not. I haven't checked it. This is a trust, not verify. But they said, what was it? I think they said the price of Bitcoin has been within 4% for the last 20 days, or maybe 10 days, which is super, like, not volatile, super stable. Bitcoin just doesn't do that. Even the stock market doesn't do that. And so it's just been rotating like a couple of grand either way. It's like it kind of hits 40, bounces back to 38, and it's just been staying there for, I think, a week or so now. And God, yeah. It's like, but every time, you know, it's like that meme where the guy's poking Bitcoin with a stick saying, come on, do something. And the thing it does is dump 50%. So maybe we don't poke it with a stick. Maybe we just leave Bitcoin at 38K and be happy with it. I don't know. Is
it a stable coin now?
Yeah, maybe this is it. Maybe this is Bitcoin hyperinization. maybe 39K is the price. It wasn't 15 million, it was 39K. Fuck.
Have you been double checking the clock, like making sure it's still connected to the Wi-Fi and like,
yeah,
you're still working?
It still
updates.
Just every 5 minutes it updates and it changes like $10. I'm like that last, like literally, it was only a month ago where I was doing a pod and that was updating by 2K every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So now it does $20. Like, who cares?
Some on-chain analysis, as we were just talking before. Apparently, over the last 12 months, 61% of Bitcoin has been held in terms of people not selling, and in the last 3 months, 83%. So people are still holding, and so that probably obviously has something to do with it in terms of not moving, which could later on provide us with some supply shock shortage as well, which means boom, 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 price goes up. But we will see and wait for that time to come, because it ain't happening right now. We're just going to the right. Not up, not down, just to the right.
Yeah, we're kind of flatlining, aren't we? We're kind of dead at 39k. But hey, it's not a bad price to be dead at 39k.
I was going to say, does this mean Bitcoin's dead?
It doesn't mean it's dead. Man. The more people that think it is, the better. Like if some governments just dismiss this now, it'd be brilliant.
Yeah.
Let Bitcoin just creep up to 100k over the next couple of years or something, and just get even more established. Let people build more products. Let Strike get further advanced. Let's just get our infrastructure built a little bit more, because we know they're coming. We know they're coming. They're going to come hard. They're going to defend that US dollar to the last. So
get rid of the FUD around renewable energy and all that kind of stuff.
There's no such thing as getting rid of that, right? Because it's made.
No, sorry. Yeah, well, I mean, the fact that they're going, oh, it uses too much energy. Well, if it's using unused energy and it's using volcano energy, then what's the issue?
Yeah, but whilst there's one miner plugged into the mains, they'll go boiling oceans.
You know, here's a stat which I saw today. So electric cars, everyone goes, oh, get an electric car. What percentage on average of fossil fuels does an electric car use?
What's that? As in like what, day-to-day running, or to build the thing?
No, I mean day-to-day running, so charging them. So fuel.
So a percentage?
Yeah, so what's your average? So what percent of fossil fuels and then ultimately renewables does it use?
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, because there's a load of them that obviously use 100% solar, but that isn't all of them. Some of them do use oil and gas, but to generate that electricity that goes into that recharger. So
not a lot use solar to sort that power out.
Right, okay. Well, you've given away the answer a little bit then. Because I thought what I was going to do is have a Tesla house where you just put some solar on your thing. You have a power pack. I charge my car and go off. So I'd be 100% off grid there using renewable energy.
That would be an extreme, wouldn't it? You know, but you think about that. Not everyone would have that. A lot of people will be leasing a Tesla, so they'll literally have it on a 3-year lease on God knows how much a month.
Yeah, and they definitely wouldn't have the power pack. They'd be going off to their Tesco, their Sainsbury's, and they'd be plugging in. So, okay, then I'll say a higher number than I was going to say. I'll say 50-50.
80%.
I'll go 80.
Oh, yeah. It's 80. What? So what is it?
Is it 80?
Yeah, it's
80%. So that's what the statistic. Obviously, I haven't bothered verifying, but I just thought it was funny.
It's hilarious. Yeah. Because weirdly, I even saw there was some comedians taking the piss out of the high petrol prices, and they're going, "Well, look, if you cared about the environment, you'd already have a Tesla, and these high energy prices wouldn't be affecting you." But
I think that came from the US government. They talked about you should have a Tesla. Instead, it's just like, oh, you can't afford petrol, buy a 50 grand car.
Yeah. Well, yeah. In American dollars, it's 100k, and it's just I can't remember. I think it was Stephen Colbert. He was a comedian that I really respect, but ever since the COVID stuff kicked off, I think he's basically a paid shill now, and he tells jokes that are all politically just charged and just so pro-government. And it's just, dude, you're funny. Why are you just shilling propaganda and trying to make it funny? And yeah, I think it was him that I saw do the joke that was, yeah, you should has a Tesla. And he just got obliterated on social media going, look, if we can't afford $7 a gallon gas, we can't afford 100k Tesla, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the whole thing. I think they put it through the government as well, so it wasn't just him where it's actually originated from. Because Ginger spokeswoman for America, she's getting absolutely obliterated at the moment. Like they keep on leading her down little avenues and then fucking beating the shit out of her.
Yeah. And it's hurting the average person though, in terms of the fact that the energy prices have also increased. So that's going to be offset against it as well, right? Yeah, exactly. You're going to be paying more for your electric.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got that as well. You've got everything. Yeah. Everything is fucking you over, and it's pretty much. I suppose this was predictable, wasn't it? It was very predictable when we started just printing money and saying people don't have to work for so many months, you know, and then also we're printing money to put track and trace, printing money for tests, etc. It was always going to come back and bite everyone, but no one's actually admitted where this big inflation shock's come from yet. But it's obvious.
Oh, yeah.
I actually think it's going to get worse as well in terms of, you know, we're not even at the starting line, if that makes sense. I think that, you know, with the shortage of food that's going to happen because of the whole Russia, Ukraine, the miss of the harvest, that's going to increase everything. I think we are going to have to suffer some real hardship.
I think for UK, it's not going to be as much as somewhere like, say, a poorer country, because we're ultimately quite a rich country. So we actually pay more for our harvests. It'll be the ones lower down the chain who are going to lose out. And like I said, it's not going to be nice.
They'll loop it in though, won't they? Even if we didn't suffer anything, it'll be a chance for them to be like, oh, it's because of this it's going on. And so we've had to increase our prices, even though we're zero affected or minorly affected.
Well, yeah, they've done it for oil. They've put it up and said, oh, yeah, Ukraine. It's just like, but this happened in January. And this was what the redheaded spokeswoman for the US. They're like, but the prices went up before the war.
Really good.
Well, yeah, they're just full of lies, aren't they? And I've seen plenty of evidence around just the supply of oil and stuff, and the supply's still there, and the price has already gone up. So that it's either someone predicting a future problem, or it's just price gouging, and or in reality just resetting the price to be in line with inflation, what inflation really is. But the actual shortages and all that type of stuff, I'm with you, so never look like this isn't even started yet. This is slightly the fallout of 2 years of very low economic activity, and now, based on them doing this war thing, Ukraine and Russia are extremely important countries for the whole European side of the world. If those countries stop producing, or we don't produce, or like refuse their produce for whatever reasons due to whatever sanctions we end up putting in, it literally reminds me of COVID 2 years ago and us deciding whether to lock down or not. We've gone, which is worse, like the virus or lockdown? And I think now we're 2 years later, we've got the benefit of hindsight. Anyone that doesn't say that lockdown was clearly worse is, I don't know, I think they're just a little bit mentally slow. So clearly we did the wrong option there. And now we've got the same with this war thing now. And it's one of those where you go, let's just assume it's all real. It's one of those where, like, by putting loads of sanctions and just refusing all this produce and refusing 30% of the oil and gas that you take and just saying no to it, or allowing whatever to happen and just let them sort it out. It's one of those, again, like, is the cure worse than the illness? And I've got that sinking feeling yet again. But why is it yet again probably the wrong solution to a problem? Because this solution involves money printing. And once we see money printers, everyone's getting paid. So provided they're all getting paid, they don't give a shit what happens long term. They're not there looking for
I thought they cared about me.
Unfortunately, I don't think anyone cares about you. And,
I was hoping he wasn't going to turn up this week.
Fuck you, I would say I'll go and watch Bake Off, but it isn't on at this time of year.
Even Love Island's not on.
Can't say I watch that.
Yeah, you do.
I'm a bit partial to a bit of Bake Off, but not to Love Island.
You've got the water bottle and everything. Just says cock on it.
I don't even know what that means, what relevance that is to Love Island.
So then each time you suck from the tea, it looks like you're, Right, our first story of the week. I love how we're going to go from Love Island cock bottles to Gary Gensler, the head of the SEC. Basically confirming
nothing like getting cancelled in the first 10 minutes of the show.
Oh no, it's friendly bants. So this is a story that really, I think it came out about a month ago, and it's been delayed and delayed and delayed. So this is the executive order from Biden about Bitcoin/crypto, where there was a lot of talk about it, because obviously an executive order is something that the president can just pass. They're rarely signed, or at least they used to be rarely signed. But then I think Obama made them much more regular. Then I think Trump came in and went fucking nuts with it. And then Biden is kind of carrying that on and mainly undoing what Trump did. But then, because like with this, like normally you would do a normal bill to go, oh, this is how we're going to regulate this thing or pass this law. With an executive order, pretty much once he signs it, it just seems to just happen. So it's a very weird state of affairs. But essentially, we finally seen the detail of Biden's executive order that is around crypto. I thought it was going to be harder hitting, but then as it is, there's literally virtually nothing in it. It just says, if anything, it almost tries to read positive to say that America wants to be at the forefront of innovation, but we also need to protect investors and consumers. So we're just going to regulate it, try and stop the illicit activity, but essentially we're going to let this thing thrive, and number one, not ban it. And not regulate it to the point where it's useless. It seems at this point. I think in reality, there's hardly any detail in it. It's very vague, high level, and it's not worthy of an executive order at all, because I think this was America's position anyway. So it actually was a complete nothing burger.
What do you think it's because it's Biden?
Story one of today. Sorry to interrupt me. In terms of nothing burger. Superficial prize of count how many nothing burgers we drop on this week's pod.
But if Biden did a executive order, what do you think would be in it?
Just be like his dentures.
I mean, like the man can't even string together a coherent sentence. He doesn't know what proof of work is.
The children like to stroke his legs because his hair stands up in the pool, and like they like to rub it down.
What the fuck are you on about?
That was a famous anecdote from Biden. He was trying to say that he was like relatable to the people, and he said his hair it sticks up when it goes in the water on his legs, and the children used to like rubbing it down.
That's just his hair.
And one of the hairs was a bit thicker than the other, and he rubbed it a bit more.
Does he rub it after he sniffs children's hair?
I don't fucking know, probably.
But back to all point. But back to this point, I'm kind of like, it was always going to be a nothing. Like, what can you do? Oh, you want to ban it? People go, why do you want to ban it? So what are you going to do? Like, you can try and be clever, like one of our stories where you go, oh, proof of work or something stupid like that. But it's, oh yeah, let's put a framework around it. But you got kind of two views here. You got one, we're scared that we want to ban it, but if we do, we know people are going to look at this and go, something, you can't just ban this. There's no reason for you to do it because it's a medium of exchange. But then there's two. There's one which I don't reckon it would happen, but I say if, it's not an if, when the dollar fails, what are they going to do? Because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, isn't it? All currencies go to zero, proven over time.
Yeah, well, I think their plan at the moment is the CGBC. They're going to reset the currency and put everyone back to zero and go, this is the great reset. We need to do this for climate change and pandemics and all that kind of stuff. And you say they can't ban it because it looks bad, but India banned it, China have banned it. There's plenty of people that have just outright banned it. And you kind of know that like big countries don't ban stuff unless they're threatened. So it's big admission to go, this thing is dangerous. Yeah. But it's a very real thing. And I still think at some point in the next couple of years, America will ban Bitcoin. I do
when
think
they ban it, I always say that it makes it proves that it works.
Yeah.
I think you used two examples there. You got China, who I can't remember what's their government classed as. It's basically communism and it's dictatorship. What they have.
Yeah.
So that's it. Their power is there. They've got everything to lock you in. They've got the CBDCs. They've got the social credit system. Why the fuck would they let you have anything else? India has
in full effect.
I want to say India has double-digit inflation every year. I might be wrong on that one, but I'm pretty sure I read that a few weeks ago. So very two examples. People want to flee a currency like the rupee, but they can't. So that's a prime example. Whereas America and UK are like, our inflation is 2%. And they're very much positioned as democracies. You can pretty much do what you want as long as it harms no one else. But as we've discovered over the last few years, it's not really the case. But they're still under that pretense. So I just kind of think it's very hard for the Western countries to ban it.
Yeah. Just going back to your point there in terms of what would Biden put in an executive order reminded me of a comedian that says, how are you going to make decisions about the future when you're not going to be there in the future as well? But ultimately, I think, the likes of India will be interesting because I think that they could be a new superpower after China because they have good work ethic, good education. They need to change their money, but they're doing all of the right things. And in the 2000s, we had the BRIC nations of Brazil, Russia, India, and one more. His name escapes me up right now. But ultimately, I think they could be the one that comes up.
What do they say that a growing economy hides inflation, which is your example in India, that they are booming, they're becoming a really strong country, whereas inflation hides a still or shrinking economy as well. So you've got that side of it. So like the UK, we're an example of we inflate because our economy is not growing. So, our economy is growing by 2%. What we mean is they just printed a shitload of money and that's it. Whereas India, they're printing a shitload of money, but their economy is growing at record amounts because they're making the right decisions at the moment. So, but will they break us up themselves is the big question.
Yeah, it actually reminds me of, if you make it into a company kind of comparison, it's sometimes a little bit easier because countries, whether they're solvent or not, or whether their economies are real or not, it's so hard to distinguish. It's just freaking impossible sometimes because it's just full of lies. Whereas I think it was like the Silicon Valley era that we had, where there was loads of social media companies that popped up and their valuations just kept increasing. And you go, well, these are obviously successful companies. They used to be valued at 10 million. Now they're valued at 10 billion. These are successful, right? No. When you looked at their actual revenue numbers under the hood, the only reason they were kept being worth more was because a very small subset of people kept valuing them at more and allowing them to raise funding at that. And this was a very small select group of venture capitalists that were funding the companies. And then once they kind of got released out on their own, most of them just failed and just puffed into thin air because there was no revenue model. They had millions of users, but no way of making money. And only a few ended up surviving, which is why we have the Facebook, Instagram, and Googles of the world that are now.
And the others got ate up probably as well in terms of being bought because there may have been something, but nowhere near the valuation of what it was.
Most of them just folded, completely. Yeah. There was a million photo sharing apps. There's a million messaging apps. There's a million of everything. And because I used to follow this religiously probably about 20 years ago. It's wow, I wanted to move to until I kind of realized it was all just kind of over, really. And I think that's the same as what we've got here, right? Where once the VCs stopped funding these companies, 99% of them just went pop. And I think we're in the same position, but it's much harder to know because again, it's a little bit like with these startup companies, they keep their books closed until they IPO, and a lot of them never IPO. The investors that just lose faith. And it's a little bit like of countries, right? Whereas in reality, we don't get access to the balance sheet really, because all the debt that is owed from country to country is all convoluted, or the interest rates. And I think once the music stops, in reality, it's going to be a very good test when fiat really does crash and a Bitcoin standard rises. We're going to know which countries are actually profitable or not based on their imports and exports. And
that's exactly what I was going to say.
We're going to get some. I think it's going to be some good surprises in there, because I think there's going to be some countries that are hidden that are like, oh, these guys make a lot of money, and no one knew. It's just because America and Britain can outprint them, we look more successful. But that's fake. We're just cheating. We're sat next to the banker in Monopoly, just piling money onto our stack. Whereas
and it's also
they're actually earning it properly.
What you may see is with the US, kind of like buying up countries' debt or making them go into debt. They may have buried some countries. So like we had one, which I didn't actually realize early when I said Puerto Rico, like US is basically shortening down their debt because they couldn't repay it. But they're actually pretty much one of their states. Well, they're a territory, so they're not quite a state.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what would Puerto Rico look like if US weren't trying to bury it? And they've done that to plenty of countries as well. This isn't just, they're trying to bail out Puerto Rico. They do it on purpose so other countries owe them.
Yeah.
And China have that model as well. It's not just the US.
It's also a very, very good way of getting cocaine into the US legally. It's almost like they built their own loophole.
I thought most people just smuggled it up their ass.
I mean, that's just your little fantasy.
I was going to say,
if you think you can get 300 million people's worth of cocaine up your ass, then it comes in freaking shipments, and it's bizarre, right? Because
it could be a lot of asses.
It could have been a lot of asses, yeah.
And there's the average American's quite big now.
Yeah. No, because it's weird because in Puerto Rico it's very strange, right? So they're a US territory, so it counts as US land. So what everyone is doing is they are putting all their exports and imports, they drop it in Puerto Rico, and it comes off into Puerto Rico onto the island. It pretty much gets loaded straight back up onto a different ship, sometimes the same ship. They just okay it, and now it is an internal shipment from one area in America to another. There's completely different checks done on that ship now. So a load of illegal stuff gets loaded on in Puerto Rico and just goes straight up to Florida. And they know it, and they just don't care.
Well, there's the conspiracy theories about the movement of cocaine and crack as well into the US to help to fund wars through the CIA, which I think has been termed as conspiracy theory, but now is just widely accepted. But it is what happened. Like the CIA funded itself through fucking everyone up. Yeah. And they probably did similar, but I think they did it through different countries.
Yeah, it's bizarre. And I think having lived there for like a year, it's just common knowledge that one of the biggest benefits of being the people in Puerto Rico know, they don't want to be a state, they want to be independent, but they also know they need some of the American funding, and they pretty much also know that their main function is to allow illegal drugs into the country, because they don't do the checks properly at their end, but now it's on American soil, so it can just flow straight into Florida, and they just take it off. It's like it just came from up the coast in, I don't know, like Boston or New York or whatever. It's like going from New York to Miami. They're like, yeah, it's in America, so there's no point to check it again. But it wasn't in America, was it really? It was in Puerto Rico, which is right down next to Barbados in South America, Mexico, Colombia. Oh, what are these countries famous for? And it's just bizarre. Like, everyone knows it. It's just a very common bit of knowledge that everybody knows, everyone accepts. Like, we're the country that gets drugs into America.
Yeah.
And yeah.
just picking back up on what we were saying earlier on in terms of we just found some stats on countries around the world and what the central bank believes that they have in gold reserves as well. So maybe one that we can pick up on in another show, and we'll look through the data.
Well, India's top.
Kazakhstan. Bloody hell. Kazakhstan are a dark horse.
And Russia.
Bitcoin. Well, Russia being
Kazakhstan, Russia.
So is this in one of our stories, or is it just in general where it's been revealed that Russia been mounting up their gold?
That was we've got a Bretton Woods story where they revealed that. And Oh, actually, yeah. So when I said top, that was the largest increase.
Yeah, that's largest. So I think the US is still top.
There's China.
China, of course. China.
Sorry, yeah. China.
Yeah, America aren't even in the top 10. It's China, Japan, Switzerland, India, Taiwan, Russia, Hong Kong, South Korea, Saudi Arabia, Singapore.
That's because US are broke as shit, aren't they?
But yeah,
that's
crazy. That's all Asia. Only Switzerland, which are like the black sheep of Europe, really, where they're the dodgy ones. They're doing the Swiss bank accounts and that. It's all Asia and Russia.
Saudi as well, but that's not surprising.
But if you total reserves, it's China, Japan, Switzerland, US, India. If you filter it. Yeah, if you scroll down in the Q4 2021 snapshot and then you filter on total reserves. Total reserves are showing as 3,427,038 for China.
Oh, they're fourth, I see now.
So US is fourth.
Oh yeah, I'm not sure what it's filtered on before. Yeah.
But you've still got Saudi. I mean, it is a lot of Asian countries, so like India be up and coming. Switzerland is the only one. Well, Russia, we count them as part of Europe. I mean, it is Asian dominated.
Yeah, but going back to that thing about the BRICS that were kind of culminated in the early 2000s, which are Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. You know, we've got 4 out of the 5 all there.
Yeah. I must admit, I was surprised when America wasn't there because obviously they stole all the oil only 50 years ago. Not oil, the gold.
Yes.
So if they stole all the gold from Europe 50 years ago, I would have been amazed if they'd imagine I lost it all to China in that time.
We've lost most of it.
Yeah, they do.
China
stole a lot of it.
And then China also owns a lot of the US debt as well.
Yeah, I'd actually be interested to know where the verification of this info came from as well, because I know almost for a fact that no one knows how much gold America's got anymore. People have tried to verify it. They won't let anyone in.
Yeah,
so people suspect it's not there.
They're going to be like that person who you think's really well off, and you actually look at back where they live because they're driving around in a Bentley. You find out it's leased or something. Get back to the house and it's just a shed.
Exactly.
Well, this data comes from the World Gold Council, as always, with everything on the show. It'll be in the show notes, so if anyone wants to go in and have a look at that, but it probably does need verifying, so don't trust it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing with gold, though, right? Whenever you can never really verify it because unless they literally show you the video of someone going to the vault and showing us all the gold in each of the different locations, and even then I go, well, break some of those gold bars down. I prove those gold bars are real. Gold all the way through.
They're just like, shut up, you prick.
Yeah, I know.
Leave us alone. Go back to your fucking Bitcoin.
Yeah, and that's the problem, isn't it? Whereas with Bitcoin, you can just go, do you really have like 10,000 Bitcoin as Russia or whatever? And they can go, yeah, we own this wallet.
Well, Craig, right?
Do a transaction and send 100 Satoshis to this wallet to prove it.
But Craig Wright doesn't feel like doing that right now.
I know.
That story's gone really quiet, isn't it?
Oh man, there's so much bigger things than fucking Craig Wright now.
Yeah.
It's a nice time when he's just totally irrelevant.
Yeah, for sure.
We are now fighting world wars, so yeah. But what do you think about Pomp though? Because Pomp's kind of take on this, on the Biden executive order, going back to the story, was that he thinks America want to be at the forefront of this industry and to embrace it So I think he's going along with Saylor's version of the dollar and Bitcoin can be super successful together.
I think it's the way which we got to lead them. When you got stupid fucks like Biden in there, it's the way which you got to lead them. And the dollar is failing. It is going to zero. You know, and as we said, it's not just us saying that the dollar is failing. Every single currency has gone to zero. They inflate it when they get their hands on it, and they devalue it to nothing. That is what happens. So at some point, they are going to have to reset it. And it's whether they decide to go down the CBDC route, which is going to be the biggest human rights catastrophe which we ever see in our lifetime if it happens.
Seems like the most likely right now.
Or we go towards Bitcoin. We actually have sound money, and you look for the next renaissance where we can get the next advances, clean energy. You know, maybe some like nuclear fusion. Maybe we get into being more efficient with growing or whatever the hell else it is, or we just muddle along and become closer to China.
Yeah, well, how about this for a proposition, right? Let's say both of you, right now, are president of the United States, and
I wouldn't poop my pants.
And I've got breasts. I'm Condoleezza.
Don't worry, you got diapers on, and you got one on your face as well, just for like safety. So the kind of situation I want to put to you, that you got two choices, right? So you got one choice. You know that US dollar is a scam. You know it's just being printed out of thin air, and you know Bitcoin's legit. So you got two options. Option one is do what everyone's telling you to do, which is, look, we're the best. We're the US dollar. Just plow ahead, create some kind of CBDC off the back of it. We're going to do a load of dramas, loads of pandemics, wars, whatever. We're going to distract everyone. We're going to try and convert them onto a CBDC and maintain power. That is plan A. Plan B is to actually do things properly, move on to sound money. But the issue and the danger with that is that a lot of other countries will do it at the same time, and there's no guarantee we win on this one. On the other one, if that plan works, we stay number one. Moving to a Bitcoin standard, there's no guarantee to be number one anymore.
I think it's the advancement of the human population. Like, I think there's two different mindsets here. There's like, everyday Joe who's going to be, well, I want people to do better. I don't want to see people beaten down. And that's my kind of viewpoint, which is why you go down Bitcoin. But
if you're US president, right? So you're in control of the American people's interests.
I'm not, I haven't got an insane ego and I haven't been bred into the job. I'm not part of that elite. So my mindset is not there. My mindset is I want the world to be better. I want to go on to better energy sources. I want to get rid of pollution, whatever, grow things better, people less starving, and actual sound money, which people know what they need to save for. Whereas his will be, I want control. I was bred. I lived for this job. I was put in power because of my family's contacts. I was basically bred into this position. And I don't want to lose power. So there's the two different mindsets. And that is what you can term as the elite or the parasites who are living off everyone else.
After getting over the shock that I'm a woman, and obviously Dr. Evil 10% is 80 plus years old and soiled his pants for the second time in an hour.
Put my pants.
Are you the vice?
I'm Condoleezza. Yeah, I'm Condoleezza Rice. And I think I'd probably look to make an executive order. And what I mean by that is to try and somehow change the constitution that you can only serve 2 terms, because all they really care about is to stay in power for those 8 years. And as we know, that it's going to take a lot longer than that. And so when and you might not even obviously get the 8 years, you only may get the 4 years, and no one wants just the 4 years. So until that changes, I think they'll always just continue to kick the can down the road, and they won't ever take the hard line of actually, we might lose this, but it'll be better long term. So I'm not going to be the one that takes this grenade, and then they'll just do the easy thing, unless they were to change it.
Yeah, it's a fair point. It's all about the short term, isn't it?
Yeah, I want the votes. I want to stay in power for the time that I'm in power.
there's no need to sort your time preference out because you haven't got to deal with a long term, and Biden's going to be dead within 5 years' time anyway. Yeah. You know, let's be honest. So he doesn't give a shit.
Exactly.
And he probably doesn't give a shit because he doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah. And that unfortunately is literally why whenever the money changes or there's a big economic shift in technology or whatever, hardly ever whoever had power before transitions into the next version. They nearly always end up last because they just hold on through to the bitter end on the old version of what the truth was, and they just get smashed to pieces, which is why I don't agree with Saylor and Pomp's analysis at the moment. I think they might be saying it as a Trojan horse to go, look, America, Bitcoin can be your ally. And I think in reality, when it really comes down to it and people have a real life decision on what do they get paid in and what do they hold their savings in, dollars or Bitcoin, when that time comes and more people are choosing Bitcoin, the US dollar and the people responsible for that, they're going to go all out violence against Bitcoin. I think they're going to go, because by that point, maybe we're at 500,000 to 1 million a coin. And they're going, look,
shut your mouth.
We could have,
it's dead.
We could have stamped this out at 39K. We have an executive order. All we had to do was we ban Bitcoin. It's illegal to own it. And it could have been over for America. It wouldn't have been, obviously, but it would just, it would have kept rocking on. But
so I think we're going to hit, this year and next where we see a number of countries move across because they're fucked. There's no choice. It's either move to the dollar, which is failing, or move to Bitcoin, which is going to be a big leap of faith. But we look back at history, and countries tend to have that innovation within that period of sound money.
Yeah. So not only that as well, but you're watching Russia, the de-dollarization away from the dollar as well. So if they'll look at that, and obviously they're having to do it for a certain reason, but people will look at it and think, hold on, they've survived not being linked to the dollar. Yeah. Maybe we can do the same as well.
Yeah. It was one of the weirdest stories of the week, actually, that where Russia are looking to sell oil in yen as opposed to, because obviously we know it's known as the petrodollar, which is the oil dollar. It's illegal essentially for anyone to sell oil.
It's not illegal. It's just frowned upon, and you may get a war if you do that. You will get Iraq found out.
Yeah.
But we also had a story today that Saudi Arabia are considering, because US aren't as dependent upon them. In 1974, they were getting something like 80% of their oil from Saudi Arabia. Now it's literally halved because they got production within the US. I'm guessing newer techniques and finding new sources. So the Saudis aren't particularly happy, and China are pushing them to move on to yen for the oil trades between Saudi and China, which would be great because I think China's their biggest customer.
That would be hilarious, like full circle kind of level of corruption, because this goes through so many conspiracy theories, like Saudi Arabia and America, because like 14 of the 17 hijackers of 9/11 came from Saudi Arabia. Yeah, Saudi Arabia got zero consequences because they were the first country to agree to the petrodollar in exchange for arms. So Iraq and Afghanistan got blown to shit for a 9/11, even though I think one person came from Afghanistan, 2 came from Pakistan, and then the other 14 came from Saudi Arabia. So if they've now fallen out 20 years later, and now they're agreeing to go, you know what, as the founders of the petrodollar, we're going to go to a yen dollar. Wow. Like if we're talking about World War III,
petro yen.
That was petro yen. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. that type of thing would cause World War III. That would get me scared, because America would go to war over that. Like this whole Ukraine thing, I'm like, whatever. They don't give a fuck about this. They're just virtuous.
But if you get a few countries to move away from the dollar, they're fucked. They're hamstrung. Their money becomes worthless. It devalues even more. So they can't even raise the troops to go to war for them, because they'll be like, I'm not going to war for this worthless money.
Yeah.
But
Well, imagine like
I was gonna say that as well for the Russians as well. I've been watching various different news channels, and obviously you have to take it with a pinch of salt. But imagine you're a Russian soldier, and you're getting paid in rubles, which is then just decreased by 40%, and you're going into a war that you thought was for one reason, and then you find out when you're there is for a completely different reason, and you're not getting paid for it, and you're risking your life for it. It's like, the heart to actually go to war just isn't there. So if you're a mercenary, you're doing it for the money. If you believe in it, then you have this strong belief and conviction. But if that belief and conviction is for the wrong reasons, then you're probably going to lose.
Yeah.
Well, America have made a history of going to wars which no one's believed in. Afghanistan,
but the
Iraq.
actual soldiers themselves. The soldiers themselves.
Vietnam, they were still drafting people who didn't want to go to war, because that's why Muhammad Ali wasn't allowed to fight for a few years, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you can have the lack of belief, absolutely.
Because he refused to be drafted. So there's I know it's 50 years ago, but Vietnam, an example where they're trying to draft people, and they just like, no, fuck off.
Yeah,
that's why. Can you imagine if you're a Russian though, and you've got constriction, and therefore you're saying no to Putin, so you're going to go, but you're going to go knowing that it's like a suicide mission.
Yeah, and one of the sad things as well in Russia is they've only been able to invest in the Russian stock market.
Yeah.
So like 95% of the investments that are in Russia are in Russian assets. So the fact that the Russian stock market has gone down by 85% until they pulled the plug out, and they just went, right, that's far enough. They pulled the plug out. So no more trading, because it just continued to go down, right? So it even means that the middle class in Russia, who had their money working for them, because obviously they know, like us, once you get to kind of like out of the day-to-day grind, you realize, oh yeah, money's a lie. You've got to make it work for you. You get it into the stock market, and then they've got fucked by that, because the stock market went down at 85%, and now it's just off. So you're nearly definitely in the red on your investments, and there's nothing you can do about it. So it really has, if you're an everyday person, obviously if you're in the poverty end of Russia, then yeah, loads of people have lost jobs, loads of people have been drafted going into war. If you're middle Russia, all your life savings are probably gone, your pension is gone, your investments are gone, 85% down. Who knows when they plug that thing back in, does it continue to go down or does it go back up? Who fucking knows? So yeah, it's financial devastation for people. And even if not a single bomb lands in Russia from anyone else in the world, there will be millions, if not hundreds of millions of people financially devastated by this.
Yeah. Again, we'll probably reference it throughout every pod at some point, but Ray Dalio's New World Order shows when countries have gone to war and then they've turned off their stock markets have actually been off for years. Obviously, the length of the duration of these wars as well. And so that means that the longer that this actually continues, these individuals are just going to get burnt more and more, harder and harder. And as we've said and seen, the ruble is just going down more and more as well.
Oh shit. I literally went to get a drink and said, where's Dr. 10%?
Dr. Evil 10% has probably just thought, oh shit, all my money's in the Russian stock market. I better go and do something now. No, we've lost Dr. Evil 10%. There has been a sneaky rumor that he is Russian.
There he is.
He's back. Just thought you were pulling your money out of the Russian stock market because there's been a sneaky rumor that you are associated with Putin.
He has had some Russian type names. Ruski.
Well, you know,
he might be a government spy.
Could be. Or it could just be one of those people who don't know what country they're from because they just look like a supervillain. Like Klaus Schwab, where is he from? God knows.
Every time I see him photoshopped into like what was it, a James Bond villain meme, I'm just like, it's just you.
Well, which I don't understand is it's meant to actually be a real picture. It's where he's got that kind of like weird, almost ceremonial gown on, and it looks like something which Senator Palpatine from Star Wars. Where I'm like, is this not Photoshop? No, it's real.
Yeah, I can't believe that photo is real either. It's just, why would you ever wear that when you know what you're doing? Like, Jesus.
I know.
Like, literally, if people think you're part of the Masons, like this secret, like black circle, like secret group, don't wear shit that look cult-like like that. Dude.
Just couldn't be bothered getting changed after a meeting.
Anyway, it's not even a fancy dress. It's just like that's what he was wearing for a speech one day, dude.
Anyway, should we move on to the next story? Kind of linked into this one because it's another nothing story.
Yeah,
and we're talking about America and their executive order because I think everyone's shitting themselves a bit on the America thing. It's the same with the EU. So the rumours started flying around that the EU is looking to ban proof of work, and there was a vote I think yesterday. But reading about it last week, it seemed that the actual thing which was put forward had been changed because they don't want to take proof of work out. So it had been reworded, and even the reworded version didn't get through as well. But some of the MEPs did vote it in. So it really is a nothing story. But everyone's been kicking off on Twitter because it's, I think, the EU's first attempt at doing something.
Yeah. So they're trying to ban proof of work, right, weren't they? They're literally trying to make... Because this is bizarre because up until now, like, really, Bitcoin's like the top one, and it's just like, who cares how it works, really? It's, are we threatened by a currency or not? But the EU went it this very weird way, which was, you know, proof of work is what we're offended by, which is their only angle on that is climate change and, oh, you're boiling the oceans, which is such a weak argument. You need to pretend that terrorists and just money launderers use it. That's the best.
But grandma.
Somewhere you got to
yeah. I'm not sure you get grandma into it, but
I just did.
Shout it. But what about grandma?
Yeah, it's a bit nonsensical. It's a bit of a non-story, but there did seem to be a bit of a storm kicking up on Twitter around this. But like, if they had actually read into it on the 2nd of March, the main stuff around proof of work had been taken out, but whatever's left in still was said no to.
Yeah, but it's pretty big though, really. Like, obviously, all these are nothing burgers now, these last two, but like 23 people voted for this.
How many MEPs though? There's hundreds.
I know that was the thing I was looking up before. I couldn't find out how many voted against it, but 23 people did vote for this, which would have made Bitcoin illegal in the EU.
Yeah, but you got a couple of things: woke fucktards who are into their climate change, people who are government shills who don't want currency changed, and fucking F-heads.
This is the problem though, right? This is the makeup of not only the population but also our politicians. So these are the people that they're making our decisions for us. Like these, I don't know how many there were. How many fucking MEPs are there? Let's just have a look. I don't even know.
One of the Bitcoiners had done a thread. I should have shared it where he profiled every single one of the MEPs who voted yes. So it was some silly like facts around them. It's like this woman, she's had over 400 hamsters, but none has lasted longer than 2 weeks, and stuff like that. It was if I can find it, I'll share it. But I really should have shared it at the time because I was reading it when I was eating my lunch.
Oh, sounds amazing. Yeah. So essentially, according to this, there's about 700 members. So if only 23 voted for it, that's a tiny number.
And even if you know, a lot of people didn't vote for it, a lot of people didn't care. I just think it's a nothing. And it's just such a weak thing. You know, you've got someone who's saying, oh, let's ban this so it doesn't get in. Everyone's just gone, shut up.
You don't even understand it. Because bizarrely, like, let's just like go through the thought process of that happening. Essentially, what would have ended up was like Ethereum is migrating to proof of stake, and a load of the other shit coins also a proof of stake. They would be legal. Bitcoin is actually the only coin really that uses proof of work. This would have been a very targeted thing at Bitcoin only, not at crypto at all. It would have been Bitcoin.
And therefore, they would have also been targeting the one that is the most difficult to stop. Whereas you can stop all the others that are moving to proof of stake because they're centralized.
Exactly. If anything, this is like the perfect legislation. If I was trying to actually stop the threat against our fiat currency, this is what I'd actually do. I'd ban proof of work, because all the other currencies that are centralized can just move to proof of stake and are just, you ring up. If any of those currencies get too big, you phone up the developer and go, oi, stop it, or I'll put you in prison, and they stop it. In Bitcoin, they know there's no one to call. And it's because of proof of work, because of decentralization. So by very specifically targeting this, it's actually very smart, because it actually addresses the core problem. Like, the core threat of Bitcoin is its proof of work. So it's actually not as stupid as it looks. It's silly to ban it, but it's one of them where if I'm a corrupt Klaus Schwab politician, MEP sat in Brussels right now voting for this, I'm voting to ban this all day because I want to stay on top.
Maybe Mr. Schwab missed it because he's shaving his cat.
With balls.
I hate those naked cats.
He doesn't shave his balls.
What, he likes them hairy?
I reckon they're full on afros.
Anyway, moving swiftly on. Do we want to go to some positive news, or do we want the next bit of shit? So about the UK and what Mrs. No Show contributed actually to the show notes.
Yeah, Mrs. No Show, the fourth member of the 4Bs.
Did he actually put this in, or did someone else put it in for him?
I put it in, but he did talk about it, so I put it in on his behalf.
Okay, cool. I was going to say he actually found the link.
I hate to say this, right? I sent you all the link to our shared notes. He declined the invite.
Say what?
That's big. That's big. That's not even. Don't even want to look. That shows the intent.
Maybe he just couldn't balance his mouse in one hand while he's drinking his Starbucks.
I've got some positive news on this, actually. Maybe we bring this up on Friday, because I'll be with you boys.
Ooh.
Oh, we're getting a surprise show.
Live reactions, yes, I'll be there.
You got a seat.
Yeah.
We're going to have to just rip him. We'll just have to rip him for the whole evening, won't we?
Yes, please. 2 scoops.
It's going to be 3 on 1.
Yeah.
It's going to be like that porn video, Buckache.
Oh dear. But anyway, to Mrs. No Show's story. The UK bans Bitcoin ATMs, or rather shuts down. I thought this is a bit of a non-story as well.
Yeah,
because
it's a nothing burger.
I read about this and I kind of went, well, there's no KYC on them. And we know that the UK, the Financial Services Authority, loves KYC. So they're not going to put that in, are they? Like, it's going to be immediately stopped. So you kind of go, it isn't even them going, we don't like Bitcoin. It's just them going, you're not following our rules. So it's never going to go anywhere. So I think it's a bit of a non-story. And also, I think it's limited on the amount of money which you can deposit into these machines, from my understanding.
It's $250.
Yeah. So
well, I've got a little bit closer to things, as I think we spoke about on one of the pods, because obviously for the day job, this is what I do and this is what I work with. And so I've actually signed a company that is a crypto ATM, which you may recall. So straight away, I reached out to my contact, and his response was, in quote, the news, air quotes, regarding crypto ATMs is a bit sensationalized, open brackets, unsurprisingly, close brackets, and nothing new. We plan to be the first to gain approval. So they are doing KYC, and there is a limit in terms of the KYC, the amount of fiat you can change per day. And I think it's around about 8.5K off the top of my head, because I was looking through their FAQs a couple of weeks ago. But not only that, is the fact that when you get to the ATM, you can only use the ATM if you have already been KYC'd. So you can't just rock up and then try to deposit money. So for them, they will have approval, they'll have a license, and you definitely need to be KYC. There may be other Bitcoin ATMs that are out there where you don't have to do any of this, but for what is known as the world's largest ATM network, they don't see this as an issue, and therefore Nothing Burger Infinity 2001.
I'm loving that insider info from literally a guy that runs the main ATM Bitcoin machines in Britain. So there you go. You literally got it from the source. That's like hot off the press. Like this is probably better info than we're reading right now, what you literally said there. But yeah, what it just shows really is the fact that it surprises me that obviously that the FCA haven't essentially authorized or given any of these guys permission from the looks of it. I'm amazed ever to have a ATM in the UK. So obviously now they're going, because you haven't passed these FCA regulations, then that's why we're cutting you off. But I did think exactly what you said. I did think to be able to have an account that you could use an ATM with, it was like having a bank account.
Correct.
And you could put money in and out, but there's limits on it and all that. But you are KYC'd, you are AML'd. So it's no different to a bank account. It's just that it's very, very focused on Bitcoin. So the fact that the FCA are saying that these guys are, like the way this article is written, it's like someone's just appeared in the UK, shoved a load of ATMs everywhere, and you can just walk up to it with a phone and shove money in it, get it sent to a wallet, and it has no clue who it sent it to. It's just very bad wording, isn't it? It's like
really
let's go and look, until these people all just comply to our regulations, then we're just going to ban them or threaten them. And in reality, it actually seems that these guys are completely operating within the law. They've just been shut down, and looks like with no recourse to be able to start up again. But on the end of the article, it says that they're just going to pack up all their machines and take them into Eastern Europe. So
yeah, if you get a license, then that's absolutely fine. But we should also remember as well that these Bitcoin ATMs haven't just appeared overnight. They've been around for years. You know, a Bitcoin ATM is nothing new. It's been popping up on your local corner or in a Londis or whatever news agents that it may be. Even at I remember seeing some at a train station. They've been around for time. And all of a sudden now that crypto is the new hot thing, they want to try and ban them.
I'm genuinely shocked that ATMs were seemingly always illegal.
Yeah,
they were never legal. But yeah, it's
this company, by the way, they've got ATMs across 45 states. Started off with a single ATM once upon a time in Las Vegas, and have just continued to grow their network. So they've got them in various different countries. And I kind of remember, because again, it was only a couple of months ago when I was explaining to everybody that this will be the future. And it goes back to some of the use cases which we were talking about just last week as well, where let's say you have to automatically and all of a sudden flee your country of wherever you are. It's okay. You've got your ledger, you've got your words. Therefore, you could just then move to a different country, find an ATM, pulls out money in that currency. You're back in the game.
Sweet. So should we move on to some good news?
Yeah, Let's do it. It's not all doom and gloom.
No, it's probably another nothing burger. As whenever we talk about nation states, I always get bored. If we were talking about one of our Bitcoiners building something, I'd be like so excited. But whenever we're talking about politicians, I'm like, oh, who gives a fuck whether they're positive or negative? But in this one, they're being positive. So South Korea elects a new Bitcoin-friendly president who also blames feminism for low birth rates. So already I love him twice there because I agree with
him. Just to be controversial.
Yeah. He loves Bitcoin, hates feminism. Boy, we need to go for a beer.
I think
it shows in the show notes as North Korea. First, I was a bit
like, South Korea.
Oh, yeah.
That's so if there's a president underneath North Korea, it's just an absolute sham, and everyone knows that they're irrelevant. So in this one, it said that they extend, or rather, he wants to extend capital gains to $40,000 from $2,000 on cryptocurrency. So I think it's to attract some of the money in, isn't it? So quite an interesting one. But then as part of his candidacy, he's launched his own NFT.
Has he? Why do you see that? Is that in this article?
Yeah, it's in the article. You should have read it.
Oh, yeah. God, yeah. Launched an NFT. Oh, my God. Yeah.
Hold the beer.
22,000 NFTs. You fucking dick. Oh, that's hidden in the middle. Yeah, I must have scrolled past it. Yeah. So as always, then politicians stink of shit, talk shit, sell shit. So even though this guy is supposedly Bitcoin friendly, we know what it's already going to go. He's going to go to shit coining. He's going to go to NFTs. He's going to end up in CBDCs. So fuck this guy. Yeah. Next article. I'm done.
So his bits about feminism was Yoon said that feminism had created a rupture between men and women and was to blame for the low birth rates. He's saying that he wants equality rather than favoritism on women.
Yeah,
controversial.
I agree. I agree with that statement. That statement, I don't think was even controversial. I think it was just sound.
It's just the NFTs which is controversial.
That triggers me hugely.
Yeah.
But
yeah, you're right. It's hidden in there, isn't it? You launched an NFT collection of himself. Oh, good for you.
22,000 as well. Jesus Christ! How many pictures and videos of your own face can you fucking do? Apparently, the limit is 22,000.
Talking of NFTs as well, and we don't want to talk about it too long, but two guys that I really do respect and follow in the UK from a property perspective, they are ranting and raving about NFTs in the property world. And so next week, once I've looked into it a little bit further, they just did a live last night, but I've not had the time to look at it. They were like, yeah, this is going to be the next big thing, and it's going to revolutionize, obviously, how we do things here in the UK, and you should be getting on this as a part of your strategy. So I will see what they say.
They are scamming. That is what they are doing. They will be shelling a paid course because NFTs will not replace house deeds. Anyway, do you want to talk? You got a big story in here, which is, oh no, which one is it? Yeah. Oh yeah, hold Yeah, Inflation Weekly, the UK inflation calculator.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, it leads on or off from yours, I guess, ultimately. So I'll just click into it again because I kind of put it in early. Literally, I think it's straight after or the next day from last week's.
It was literally the first link.
Yeah.
It was in, so I can open it if you like, because
I've got it open.
Because the crazy stat, like the crazy headline that it starts with, is since 1751, which admittedly is 250 years ago plus a little bit extra. Yeah. The British pound has lost 99.585% of its value.
Is that it?
It's fucking out. Like you're 0.42 off everything.
You're just happy with nothing.
Which is insane, right? So the way to put that into like real life terms, because I think even when you say that the pound is basically worthless now, if this was a shit coin, everyone is out, because it's taken 250 years. People haven't realized. But in reality, what that means is that 100 pounds in 1751 is the equivalent to 24,000 pounds today.
Correct. Sorry, what was that stat?
100 pounds in 1751 is the same as 24,000 pounds today.
Sounds like a stable coin to me.
That sounds like a fucking shit coin. Jesus Christ.
Looking through the figures for the pounds, because it's kind of like a two-parter, UK and US, with 1971 article, the famous one. So on this one, we've got the buying power. So this is continuing from what you're saying. In 1971, this chart, it was £1,714, so £1,714. So, always hear about how little houses cost in the 70s and how little wages were. But then we go, well, how much is that for buying power? 2022, it's £24,097 since 1971. If we look at that for our doubling, so the general rule which we have is that money halves in value every 15 to 20 years. It's, according to this, it's 26 years. So it's 1996, it was £12,048, and now it's £24,097. But there's a caveat, all these stats are based upon the CPI. So this is not even accurate because they changed the basket and put things which can be easily mass produced and keep the cost down. So you can add a lot to that. So in reality, we haven't doubled in 24 years. We've doubled in a lot less than that, but it's hidden because the CPI index was brought in, I want to say, in the late 80s.
Yeah. Correct.
Well,
go on.
Yeah, well, it's just hilarious, right? It's why I added the link. But that £100, like 250 years ago, being worth 24k now, pretty much like on a gold/fiat standard for the majority of that time was fine. From 1751 all the way up to 1971, which is 220 of the 250 years we're talking about. It was largely fine.
What was it up to in 90? So that 100 went up to, in 200 and something years, it went up to 1,714.
Yep.
So it's gone up tenfold in 200 odd years, which I suppose isn't the worst thing, is it?
No, exactly. And this is the thing, right? So when we were on a gold standard/fiat standard, when they were slightly printing a little bit more money than they had, it was pretty much fine because they were always going, we'll find the gold at some point, we'll get it. Maybe we're lending a little bit more money than we've got, but we'll get it back. But in 1971, when the US finally went off the gold standard and became the dollar standard for the world instead, if you look at every single chart from 1971, it all just goes from slightly up to just exponentially straight fucking up. The last 50 years have just been catastrophic across every single metric that you want to look at, whether it's house prices, the cost of living, wages, everything's either gone straight up or straight down after 1971, which is when we went onto a fiat standard.
But the thing is, we weren't on a proper gold standard in 71, were we? It had ended around the First World War, and that's when things started going bad, but then they went from bad to worse when the US decided that everyone should come off anything related, and it's just caused bedlam. So in this one, it shows that in the 1970s, they cranked up the money printer after we came off. So it's around about 10%. And then in the 80s, it suddenly went down. You can see the point where they went, we'll realign this to a different basket of goods. And then they've got, if you look at the stats, it's got it in a table in this article. And it's in the last 10 years, it claims for one of the years, it's 0.99%. And the highest is 4%. And we know that that's a pile of shit, because you look at house prices cannot rise as much as they have without being a much higher percentage. And then additionally, if you look around about 2007 through to 10, it's only a couple of percent again. Whereas we know for a fact that's going to be more like 10 to 20% because of the financial crisis.
Yeah. If you follow the timeline, again, if people are just listening on pod streams, all of the links are in the show notes. But from 1751, some of the years, it actually goes down, from the very beginning. So it starts off at, if I just go to...
inflation.
So the inflation actually goes down. So we get some years where it goes... Let's see.
Do they?
1778, it's 142, but 79, it goes down to 130.
So it is a principle, correct me if I'm wrong, where they do actually, what Ethereum did, they burn the money pretty much. They destroy certain amounts.
Yeah.
So that's what's happened, is they've inflated to steal something. They've gone, we want to get back down to that level. So they get rid of some of the money when they bring it back off debts.
Yeah.
But, you're talking about how it's gone like this since 1971. But the fact is that if the CPI wasn't tinkered with in the 80s, it would literally be vertical.
Yeah, well, it would go in line with that chart. The value of the dollar would go up like that. And it hasn't, in reality, that the value of the dollar is not hyperinflated anywhere near in line with the supply, which is their genius, because they've made sure that the dollar's held value, but only holds value for as long as people believe that it has value.
And you've also shared the 1971, What the Fuck Happened in 1971, which is a great website. If someone hasn't seen it, have a good check out. It's just full of great stats. So
yeah,
the main one is wages versus productivity. So productivity kind of goes up, wages just kind of stay down here. Whereas in real life, they should be going in line with productivity. And then the top 1% earnings are shot up, whereas the bottom 90% is not. So, I think you're looking at CEOs, big asset earners, which are on woomph with productivity, because they know that the companies are earning more, whereas the bottom 90%, the plebs, are just going, fuck off. You should be grateful for having a job. And yeah, it kind of just goes against everything which Keynes economics put in place for this. So yeah, we need money to stimulate the economy. Well, you look at the price of everything, houses, meat. I think there's also, in relation to the meat, the one which I've seen linked quite heavily on Twitter, but it might be because who I follow, is obesity. So people have been moved off things like meats into processed meats and grains, etc. I mean, obesity rate has just gone woomph because they can't afford the decent food, or rather, they're having cheap food put in front of them and they want to eat it. So obesity rate's gone up. Beef consumption's actually gone down since the 70s, but chicken's gone through the roof. So the whole thing that cows are causing climate change is absolute bullshit. And then what else we've got here? Divorce rates. Now, I'm not going to link this to a beef. No, I didn't. I realised just as I said it. I made another one around the obesity chart. So it's not so much around. Sorry, divorce isn't so much linked to obesity or anything else. It's just the fact that financial pressures come in. Everyone's struggling more, and so divorce.
I don't know. It could be good grounds to divorce.
Yeah, it could be. But I think it's just to do with the pressures. The pressure that you're struggling to save for retirement. There's so much financial pressure now, and you do not know how to save because you do not know how much a pound or a dollar is going to be worth in 30 years' time. And I think that's got to be part of the problem with the divorce rate.
Yeah. Well, like we've always said, it's one of them, isn't it? Like once you become whatever you've done in your career, you've earned some money. You then need to become an accredited investor to make sure you maintain that wealth throughout retirement. And most people aren't. And in reality, you don't want to come to that realization when you're 65 either. You need to come to that realization when you're 25 or 30 or 35 to get your money working for you, so you do have a good retirement. And guess what? People don't make good decisions. And what is the number one reason for arguments in relationships or marriages? It's money.
It's money.
So, of course, when you inflate the money and you make it worthless, you create more arguments, you create more separation, you create more divorces. There you go.
Yeah. I mean, it just all shows that the government can't be trusted. So if you're one of these people who believes everything which the government says, and you want to give them a second chance so they can create CBDCs, we're going to go down this route exactly again, but you're going to prolong the misery, which is going to be another 50 to 100 years, and things are really going to go eerie most 50 to 100 years.
Yeah, I think this chart's really good as well and I know we've spoken about it many a time, and it also comes onto another article in terms of the essential reading. But if you were to show this to somebody who has completely no faith in Bitcoin and it's a scam and obviously it's going to zero, blah, blah, it's a Ponzi scheme, all of the FUD that comes along with it.
It's only used
and
by
then you show
launderers.
them what. So you trust this instead. Like it may need extra reading, and that's why I also included this as well in terms of the essential reading, because I don't think it's just ever one thing that allows people or the penny to drop in terms of people's heads. But I know one of the listeners, a new listener, but I'm sure a faithful listener that we all know, we were on a conference call together, and it was exactly that, where someone said, "Oh yeah, but I don't trust it." And I said, "What? So you trust this currency that's going to go to zero like all of the other 750 currencies since the 1800s?" And they had no response, but I think they had no response because it just went over their heads of what I actually said.
Yeah. But if you'd asked me 4 years ago, I would have been like, Yeah. It wasn't till I actually read that first bit.
Like 4 months ago.
2 weeks ago.
When you dropped it, dink dong.
But until I read the Bitcoin Standard, it's one of the recommended reading books which you got listed. It was looking at the history of money. I went, it's happening. It is happening. Like I didn't really understand how everything fitted together. I knew all the statistics, but I couldn't get everything together, and it's happened again. We're going through exactly the same cycle, and I think people need to know about money. And that's what I say to everyone is read the Bitcoin Standard, because I even told Sir Neverlook to read the Bitcoin Standard, because even if he doesn't invest in Bitcoin, he'll at least learn about money. And that first 50 pages or so just grips you.
Yeah.
Do you know one of the weirdest? I've only just realized there's a chart on what the fuck happened in 1971, which, by the way, is just a great list of charts. But there's something very weird in 1971, which I would not suspect, which is unrelated to everything we've been discussing. And it's the occurrence of the words peer review in Google Books. And essentially it is 0% until 1971, where it just ratchets up crazily high and has remained high and since then. And I don't know, it just seems to be, is it along with the printing of money, did censorship of what we read also go along with that? And because I've been listening to a couple of scientists recently about this peer review thing, and I've always been very much like in favor of peer review. Like, of course, don't just write something and release it. It needs to be peer reviewed, right? But and weirdly, he actually referenced this chart in the podcast that I was listening to, and it's only since I've been scrolling down this chart, this link yet again, that I've read this page a million times. I never noticed this chart before, and yeah, it seems to be we started censoring books in 1971 as well, and going, you can't release a book on its own; it needs to be peer reviewed. And guess what? Who needs to peer review it? Or maybe someone that's paid.
Well, in certain libraries who support the far left, they've been banning books.
Yeah.
So you're talking about more, what do they count themselves as? I suppose liberal. Areas like Portland, they've been banning books such as Animal Farm in 1984.
Oh yeah, and anything. Oh man, if you go the full woke criteria through all our books now, Shakespeare needs to be banned all the way through. There's not a single kids book that you could read to. You just have to read them Peppa Pig.
I read a book about unicorns and poo for bedtime story. Could that be banned?
So funny. It's interesting, that occurrence of peer review in Google Books, and I guess it's kind of tapered off because of the internet.
Yeah, but it's still super high, right?
But it is still super high, you're right, in comparison to what it was.
Yeah, it's like something happens in 1971. It's literally, what the fuck happened in 1971? Again, isn't it? It's just, why did peer review matter then and not before?
Yeah, you could argue like the evolution of checking things over, but yeah, it does seem a bit more like censorship to make sure we're stuck on the feet. And it is such a coincidence as well. But then again, I suppose it's a fact we got more useless money, so therefore we could afford the peer reviewing.
Yeah, we can afford maybe bullshit auditors.
Yeah, maybe that's actually an outcome, and it's not about censorship. Maybe it's about there's more bullshit money,
more admin.
Yeah, exactly. Because what have we got in the NHS since 1971? A fuckload more admin who don't actually do anything for what the NHS is meant to be there for.
Yeah. Jim, I got a good stat for you actually, just on that one point. Sorry, on this one stat in America, back in, I think it was around 1971, it was one admin person. No, there's one doctor to 10 admin. This is back in like 1970. What do you think it is today?
What? So you said one admin per one doctor?
No, 20 admin to one doctor.
Oh, it's something stupid. We have talked about this before when we had Young MBA on. I think it's something like 100 or something.
Yeah, it's 10x to 200 admin to every one doctor.
Wow.
But it's just useless money again. Like, it's all the consequences. So we got things in here such as share of young adults living with parents has risen to the levels not seen since the Great Depression. Median age at first marriage, because people aren't thinking about it. Age of first child. We got the divorce. Percentage of children born to unwed women because they're not marrying. Children per woman has sunk right down. But I suppose that's part of the consequence of a developed country as well. So as anyone who's listening, check through the charts because it is brilliant. But with censorship, I'd love to know what everyone else's thoughts are around this.
I was just going to ask Mr. Orlin, is there anything on this website that you've seen, having reviewed it and seen it many a time, that has been added since time, or over time, So anything new, or was this all kind of like dumped on the inception of the creation of the website and has just remained static ever since?
Yeah, I can't call it exactly. I always remember clicking this link back in the day and it having a shit ton of charts on it, and it has a shit ton of charts on it again. So I think they are adding to it, and they obviously are updating the charts, because they were updated. A lot of them, actually, no, some of them are still old. So I don't know. Maybe this website's getting a little bit old. There's not that many 2022 links.
How long has it been going for? Because I swear I saw this many years ago.
Yeah, it's at least 10 years old.
And I think it went over my head a bit as well, because I didn't really hook onto everything. But I kind of went, oh, this is terrible. But it should have pushed me down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, but it didn't. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. This is the link that all that what the fuck happened in 1971 needs to lead you to is literally trying to make you answer the question, what the fuck did happen in 1971? And that is when the world went off officially the gold standard onto a fiat standard, and the entire world went crazy. But I think the Bitcoin standard as a book does that much better than a website like that. But that website really is targeted at people that already know and just want further evidence to support the case, to go, look, we know 1971 fucked the world and everyone went crazy with printing money and just doing loads of crazy shit. So they've just gone and screenshotted a shit ton of graphs.
I'm going to send this to the wife.
Yeah, no matter what industry you're in, stuff started going wrong around 1971.
Yeah.
You go, it's because we came off the gold standard and money became worthless, and now everyone was just doing their own shit. So that's what happened. But
definitely.
But yeah, do you want to walk? Our favorite story of nearly every week is Inflation Weekly. So we've already started on that, but we've got another one on that, which is the Americans' inflation, which is 7.9% as announced this week, year on year.
It's interesting as well, because we are creeping closer and closer to double digits.
Yeah, I'm yet to see a major Western country say 8. They keep saying 7.9.
Okay.
But we know, so what's the lag on inflation? It's a year or two, isn't it? So this is pretty much the first year of the lockdowns. And we know that over 2 years, they inflated the M2 money supply by 40%. So we know that in reality, this one should be reading about 20%. So we're looking at almost 3 times the value. And we've also got, as you said, a much worse time to come, because we're going to see year number 2 trickle through as well. So, you think this is the top of all the petrol because hopefully Ukraine will be over, but no, they printed a fuckload more money, which is going to trickle down and you're going to get fucked for it.
Yeah. And so I've linked a tweet in here, which and this is from the CPI report, by the way, from America, which is officially 7.9%. And they admit in this same report, used cars, 41% increase, gasoline, 38% up, gas utilities, 23%, meat, fish and eggs up 13%, new cars, 12%, electricity, 9%. Right, all these numbers right now are above 7.9. And just things like shelter, I don't even know what shelter is, 4.7%, which, I've spoken to it and I've seen numerous people talking about rent in America. It's going crazy. So the fact that they shove in like 4.7%, I'd love to know the data that sits behind that, because clearly,
I think used cars is because people are buying older cars, aren't they? So the used cars market is blowing up a little bit. So it is a bit of an anomaly.
Yeah.
Then gasoline is speculation based upon the war. So that has got up a little bit more. But then gas, utilities, meat, fish, eggs, these are things which have not been affected by that. And also that those figures were mostly there, we'd had significantly more than 7.9 in January, haven't we? Or February, let's call it.
And just think like 7.9%, let's just say it's 8. That is insane. It really is. If you have 10K in savings, essentially what this means is it's worth 9K now. They still £1,000 off you.
Yes. Well, it's also, say if you're earning, I don't know, 100 grand in a year, you're now earning 92.
Yeah.
You just take an 8% wage cut. If you're earning 50 grand, you're now earning, 56 grand. You're taking your 8% pay cut.
In 1 year, this is 1 year. Like, imagine if this type of thing happens 3 or 4 years on the trot.
And also in reality, most of your goods are going to go up more like 20%, especially in the US. So you're not taking an 8% pay cut, you're taking 20%. So that 100 grand is more like 80, or your 50 grand is more like 40.
Yeah. And remember, this is all based on, this is pandemic numbers. This has nothing to do with what's happened with the war and all that stuff now. This is almost immune to that.
Oh, is it before that as well?
Yeah. This is a year, isn't it? Essentially. So
the war has happened. Because I took it as it caught a bit of the war inflation.
Yeah.
This was 2021 solely.
I think it's month on month, so it should be February.
Oh, this was till Feb. Yes, I've read the report and I've seen it in context. Actually, you're right. So that's actually quite amazing that gas and utilities. So sorry, they say gasoline, petrol. It's gone up 38%. I think they're just going, yeah, we're taking next year as well, aren't we?
Yeah. And I actually did. I heard a really good Twitter thread actually from someone where they basically just went, but if you, it really did. It distilled it down for me quite well, which was if you're earning millions, the percent of inflation is not directly to you, because a large percent of the money you earn is just savings or investments. So potentially, let's say you earn like 10 million a year. So essentially you only spend 100,000. So really inflation only affects that 100,000. So if it goes up by 13%, your 100K expands to 113K. But of your 10 million, it barely dents it. It's just a very small increase. So in reality, inflation was not 13% for you. It was more like 0.13%, because 9.9 million of your money was free. It's just you're spending that money. You only spend like 0.1% of your money.
But then if you think about it, their 9.9 million is probably in various investments such as rent, S&P and whatever else. So they're gaining that inflation for their investments. So they're actually seeing deflation on their money.
That's exactly my point. Because the rich not only don't get hit by inflation, they benefit from it, because they have the majority of their money goes straight into property, into assets, which increase. And their actual expendable items, like their outgoings, their liabilities, are so small that even though they're going up by 10, 20, 30% a year, it doesn't affect them. The only people it does affect is the poor, because the poor only have liabilities. They don't have barely any assets. So when you take your earnings down from 10 million all the way down to say 25K, now suddenly the majority of your spending is on liabilities, which are all going up by 10 to 41%.
Yeah, they probably only have like,
they're playing a different game.
And they probably have, and like these people probably only have like 15 grand or something in a pension pot, and that's probably gone up by 5%, whilst they're getting a decrease on their 25K of 20%.
Yeah. it just makes us. The more you look into this, the more disgusted you just get, where you just realize that this is only punishing the poor. And
but Keynes says it isn't.
Fucking Keynes.
He's been a long time dead, isn't he?
It's a really great point, though. Really, really great point about the ultra rich and how, you know, it benefits them. I mean, it gives a bit of clarity.
Yeah, massively.
Do you want to move on to Bretton Woods? It's a bit of a Bitcoin lesson, this one. There's a bit of a story behind this.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm just loading up
So
this one.
I've watched Mark Moss a few times, actually, on YouTube. And he believes that Bretton Woods, for anybody that doesn't know, occurred. It was an event that occurred just before the end of the Second World War in 1944. So they knew that there had to be some sort of reset. Then apparently we entered a silent Bretton Woods, silent Bretton Woods 2. Do we have a date on that one? Was that 2008 or 2020?
Are we not referring to 71 with that one?
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're referring to the 2.01.
Yeah, because
I think it's referring to 71 because we think 1918 people came off the gold standard, which had been on for, was it 100 years before? And then around about 1944, they really were broke as shit. And they kind of went, well, we've sold all our gold for the war. And they've then gone, the US says, I know, we still got our gold because we watched the war. We didn't do a lot. Therefore, if you peg to the dollar, we'll peg to the gold and we'll store all your gold as well. So that's Bretton Woods 1. And Bretton Woods 2 was when they turn around in 71, people going, oh, my gold back. You're spending a fuckload of money in Vietnam and you're doing all these social programs. Where are you getting this money from? They go, we're disbanding it. That's Bretton Woods 2, where they go, you know, the dollar is no longer at all pegged to gold, even though it really wasn't for the last 30 years. And then Bretton Woods 3 is what they're referring to here is what's happening. So people decoupling from the dollar. So you kind of go, at first you got sterling, the rupee or whatever it was in First World War was pegged to gold. So gold is your central asset. And then on the second one, it's going, well, we've got no gold because we sold it for tanks and planes and stuff. And therefore we got to peg to the dollar. And then it moves along, goes, well, the US haven't even got any gold, so we have to peg it to the dollar completely. And that's when you see the graph, because there's no limitation on production like there is with gold, which is rumored to be 2%, but we know that to be a lie, because if you look at the asset sheets of gold mining companies, they have lots of reserves. And then this one is talking about, well, the dollar's going to shit. Why are we all pegged to the dollar through the petrodollar, which we mentioned earlier? So we've seen things such as central banks are accumulating lots of gold. Russia are trying to remove themselves from the dollar completely. So they're trying to move over to things like the yen or gold and trading for petrol going forwards. And that's a Bretton Woods 3. It's just moving even the next stage, or is it actually going to be Bitcoin? It's a big question. Also, we would hope for Bitcoin, but it's probably going to happen within the next year or two. Yeah. Where we are having a 3 because of the US dollar. It's just fucked. You can't print 40% in 2 years and expect to get away with it.
You could even get, Gaz, you might be able to help on this one. So Satoshi Nakamoto is trending on Twitter. I don't know the reason why. Maybe you can look into that. But maybe there'll be a Bretton Woods 4 if Bitcoin becomes the new standard.
I think there will be. I think they'll peg it to some other currency. The other currency will go to shit, or it'll be. I mean, another point she made in this set of tweets was around censorship. So the Russian reserves have been frozen. How can you freeze someone else's money? You know, this is the whole thing about the trucker protest. The truckers,
it's not in their possession, is it? Because it's outside of Russia. So I know we spoke about it, but if you put your money in the bank, you have actually lost possession. And we can talk about sovereignty, and obviously self-custody, which is what Bitcoin is all about. But essentially, that's what they've done. The moment that their money was spread across the globe, which they thought was a hedge, because they had this war chest of funds of, what was it, 600 billion?
But this is the point, like looking at Russia, like it just puts another example of how can you not be in control of your own money? Mm-hmm. How can someone, like if it was something like a multi-sig process where they hold it, but they don't have access to it, then I can see the whole point. But the fact is, they're just going, can we have our money? No. And it's the same as the truckers' protests in Canada. As an individual, I have spent, years and years being a trucker. I'm earning, 40, 50 grand a year. I've saved some of that money to do some house improvements, do this and that in case there's any downturn. Can I have my money? No. Why? Because you were protesting against something which you believe that the government were irresponsible for imposing. It's all shades of wrong.
Yeah. The thing I like about this Twitter thread is, number one, it's very informative. So it does talk you through the Bretton Woods system, which essentially is just the US getting together and agreeing that they're going to come off the gold standard and go onto a fiat standard. But then throughout it goes, gold was where everything was good. So we need to get back to gold. And throughout the article and throughout this Twitter thread, I think, oh, right, they are very strongly leading us towards the way to get back to stability before 1971 is for all countries just to buy a shit ton of gold again. And that's when I started to get a little bit disillusioned with the article and go, hold on, come on, we've moved on. But then it does show that there's numerous countries buying up large quantities of gold, which, hey, this is all signs of countries being worried that the US dollar is about to collapse. So what do you do? If you're all hedged against in dollars, what should you do? And the default textbook would say, buy gold. So that seems to be what a lot of countries are doing. But I love the fact this article ends with, oh, but what if gold isn't the answer? And actually there's a new evolution of money, and it's Bitcoin, and it's gold 2.0. And then we're off. We're off to a new stage of human civilization.
So kind of going into that bit, because I think it's important to talk about gold being used as a standard. So what's to stop them coming off gold again? If we go onto gold standard, they go, this is too restrictive. We love printing our fake money. Fuck you, gold. We're going on a fiat standard again.
Yeah.
And okay, you're going to have fiat linked to gold. So you literally got your paper notes and you've got your gold. You can't go, oh, pay me in gold, flake off a bit of gold off your gold nugget, because it's not feasible, is it? So there you go. It's not actually feasible for today's system. You've got distrust in governments. You've got the fact that you can't carry it around. You could get robbed quite easily. And you can't pay for little purchases. Oh, I want to buy a pack of Haribo or something for £1. Oh, that'll be a flake of gold. Yeah, get your razor out.
And we're connected globally now. So
yeah,
if you go back to 1971, we weren't connected globally. It was all pretty much person-to-person transactions. So in reality, in theory, you could have done each of those transactions in a little flake of gold. But now that's impossible. Like we transact globally every single day now.
Also, the answer is out there as well, right in front of everybody's faces, in terms of the divisibility, which you were just explaining there about trying to break off a flake of gold. It's there in Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly. And you think about the whole thing about the locally trading. I flake off the gold, say we're actually going to go down that route. The shopkeeper then has to get all their flakes of gold at the end of the day. melt it back into a nugget. It's just a fucking stupid
And how does
process.
that flake of gold actually link back to which individual and which transaction as well? Whereas when you've got the immutable ledger, which is Bitcoin, which is transparent to everybody else, makes it super easy. Remember, these transactions previously before were also manually done as well in the background in terms of who owed what and where. So again, in this digital age, you don't need to do that. It can be a lot quicker, a lot faster.
And if we do get someone saying, oh, Bitcoin takes ages to transfer money and it costs a lot, go back to 2016, the Lightning Network came along and totally destroyed your argument.
It's free. It's instant, dude. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. It's fractions of a pence. So best case study is for remittance. So the example for El Salvador, it was something silly like $20 or $30 out of $100 was in costs. You had to pay Western Union or whatever remittance company you're using. Whereas now to transfer those dollars, you have to buy some Bitcoin for maybe $1 or something. You've got your transaction fees with Coinbase, and it costs you less than a penny to send. Bam.
Bam.
Right. Do you want to say anything about this story? Do we want to move on? We seem to have a lot of inflation this week.
There is. It's a load of just nothing burgers, just a load of bollocks. Yeah. So do you want to go on to the 7 best Bitcoin books that you can read? This is your
yeah.
If you can read.
Clearly can't, which is why I use audiobooks.
Yeah, Mrs. No Show, we don't buy that you can't read. You can read. And anybody else that is out there, you've gotten to a certain stage in your life where you can read, but there is also Audible as well. So
we haven't had a reply on that, have we?
No, I don't think we have.
Actually. No, when he said, I can't read, use Audible, no response.
Yeah, no response. One for the meal.
Yeah, I was going to say subject for Friday. Write it down.
Yeah. So I've been following Marco Whiteboard for a while now, and he offers really good sound advice when it comes to finances, not just on Bitcoin. Qualified accountant, and he's around our age as well. So he's talking from I guess a point of where you can actually, a point of realism where you can actually think, okay, yeah, you get it. And he is super, super transparent as well in terms of the transactions and his investments of what he does in some of his other videos as well. So what I like about him, he also looks at other, I guess, economists, and then also compares what they put in as well. But where we're going with this is he's offered his advice, in his opinion, of the 7 best Bitcoin books that are out there, and then 2 bonus books as well. And I'll come on to why they are bonus books. So if you are just beginning and into the world of Bitcoin, it's a minefield, and you may hear the term rabbit hole many a time. You're absolutely right. So where do you begin? Well, first of all, you like, share, and subscribe to the Bullish Bitcoin Banter and Bullshit podcast hosted by yours truly, along with Mr. All In, Dr. Evil 10%, and she was here, but she's never here, Mrs. No Show. Mm-hmm. That's what you do first. But then you go on to the bullish case for Bitcoin. So I think we've all come across this one, right?
I've heard of it, but I haven't actually read it. I knew it was an article originally.
Yeah.
But it's been one of those things which I've gone, oh yeah, I'll read it at some point. I never have. So I've looked at, there's actually a book for it now.
That's right. It was a long form article, which is still available and it's out there. All you need to do is just Google it, and it is long, but the book is the extended version of it, but it makes a really good case for why. And if you ever get a little bit when you look at the price, if you look at the price, then look back at the bullish case for Bitcoin and it'll settle your nerves, and then you'll buy some more sats.
Have you read the book or just the article?
Just the article, the long form article. Not read the book.
Yeah, he only released the book. I think it was last year. I think it was in almost exactly a year ago. I think it was Bitcoin 2021. Yeah. He released the book because the article was great. It's one of the, in Bitcoin lessons, like one of the first articles that I link to for further reading is the bullish case for Bitcoin by that guy. I've forgotten his name, but
VJ Boyapati.
Yeah, sounds right.
Boyapati, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a great article. It's just purely it's like a distilled version of the Bitcoin standard. And then if you've got more time, if you've got more than 5 or 10 minutes and you want to spend 1 to 2 to 4 hours, just read the Bitcoin standard. So this YouTube link that you've given us here, it is a great list of books. It annoys me the fact that he doesn't give us the list anywhere. It's not in his description and it's not in any of the comments, which annoys me. So I think what we should do is just ruin his video so no one needs to click the link and just go, look, what are the top books to buy in Bitcoin, and just ruin his video so no one needs to click.
Yeah. But he also ordered them in the way which he thinks you should read them. So the bullish case of Bitcoin was first. I'm like, but this, so my understanding is this is about, well, always be confident about the asset. Whereas I think you need to know the understanding, and you need to know about money first, and the Bitcoin standard is first.
Correct.
Exactly. He's a crypto.
I would even go layered money because that's kind of like a teaser, especially if you don't read and it's not as long or as technical. Because I think about layered money as like an action film. It's super quick to read and easy to get into, but the Bitcoin standard in parts of it is pretty technical, and you are blowing somebody's whole mind.
But I feel it needs to be done to be reconstructed with the other books. Like I get layered money, but I don't think it gives that understanding of money initially. Like it's quite technical, some of the bits. It's talking about the gold standards down to where they lend out money multiple times and things like that. It goes quite in depth. So I think it's technical in its own right. But I think the Bitcoin standard for me is where I'd start with anyone. Like, you want to know about the history of money in order to pull apart your beliefs. And it's such a perfect book.
Yeah. I mean, I put that in bold in there because essentially you could forget all 9 books and just read that one book. If you didn't want to read at all, I'd say just stop here and just take the one.
Out of interest, how many have you read out of that list?
Yeah, I have. I'm just going to go back to this one. If we say the bullish case for Bitcoin long form article is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 out of the 9.
Mr. Orlin?
I think I'm less than that. I think I'm like 4. I know, hold on. They've got the sovereign individual in there, Bitcoin standard, 21 lessons. I'm probably about 6, actually, about 6.
Yeah, so I'm 4. My next book, which I'm starting tonight, is Inventing Bitcoin. And then I think I've got to read the bullish case of Bitcoin. I think that's quite an easy one to tick off.
Yeah, I read Inventing Bitcoin in Las Vegas with the founder or the writer of that. Yeah, he sent it to me on PDF on WhatsApp, and I read it because I was literally the same time I was writing Bitcoin lessons. He was writing.
You need to drop a bomb right there and editing.
we went off to a good party that night.
Yeah. Was it a party for 2?
It was a party for half of Pornhub.
I remember getting live exclusive updates at the time, actually,
yeah.
with info verified and pictures. So yeah, it happened.
It happened, but I verified his article. But Inventing Bitcoin is good because it was more technical. But I remember feeding back to him literally live on my text, going, it's not the Bitcoin standard. Like, you're not going to get that buzz. And to be fair, his answer was, I know, but I want to get the more technical audience in. And okay, but yeah, out of all the books that I've read, all the podcasts that I've listened to, or the articles I've read, the Bitcoin standard, if you sit down and read that for 2 or 3 hours and just go, look, for one Sunday, one Saturday, whatever it might be, and just go, I know this might seem lazy. It might seem whatever, like I should be doing something else. I should be cooking dinner. I could just read it for 3 hours from start to finish. It will change your life. It really will.
And it'll also make you question why you didn't read it sooner as soon as you read it. Yeah. So I had it on my book list probably for about 4 or 5 months. And then I read it and went, why the fuck didn't I read this straight away?
Yeah.
It explains fucking everything. So every single link that we're sending people and like go and click the description, none of it makes sense unless you understand money first. Yeah. Once you understand money, once you start clicking these links, everything just fucking makes sense now. So, but you need to, that first 3 hours of investment of time, it's £0, really. Because weirdly, I even remember back in the day, Saifedean, people in third world countries were going, we kind of have access to this. So I have a PDF of it. So if anyone wants a PDF, just comment on our YouTube or whatever, and I'll send you a PDF of the Bitcoin standard for free, because Saifedean himself released it for free. You can buy it for like 12 or 13 pounds off Amazon right now and have it delivered to you next day. But if you can't afford that, just ask for the data, reply, comment, and I'll send you the PDF link for free. So there's no excuse. 3 hours of your time and it'll blow your mind.
And even, well, I think for most people, it's just like buy one last pack on FIFA, or go 1 month out on OnlyFans account and read it. I think it's one of those ones like, yeah, won't go on too much. But anyway, the other 5 books which I haven't read, I'll be reading.
Yeah. The Price of Tomorrow, because I really, really like Jeff Booth, the author. It isn't really a Bitcoin book, but all the roads lead to Bitcoin, and it's only the last chapter that actually points to the solution being Bitcoin. And again, we'll reference Ray Dalio's New World Order. I haven't got to the end of it, but I kind of already believe that his belief is going to be gold and hard assets as well, which is good. But his assumption right now is just put a 1 to 2% allocation towards Bitcoin. I'm sure, just like Dr. Evil 10%, his allocation will increase over time, but he's a multi-billionaire. He's not the average pleb like you and I that are listening to this. So his allocation will be worth so much more than all of us combined anyway. But definitely one that I would recommend is The Price of Tomorrow as well. And I think between the both of you, The Sovereign Individual, you've both read or listened to.
I think The Sovereign Individual is when you're further down the rabbit hole. I probably read it before I was ready because I did appreciate some of the
like
bits.
Most
things. But I think I appreciate even more of it now.
Yeah.
So it is a book for when you're much deeper down the rabbit hole, when it starts exposing a lot more of what's gone on, and it complements the Bitcoin standard as well, because it talks about times in history. So it talks about the church's reign. It talks about different governments and how they've basically restricted individuals from moving away from their power, which is ultimately what we're seeing now when we're locked down to the dollar standard.
Yeah, it's a very important list to read in right order, and he hasn't got the order quite right. But
would you agree with leaving that towards the end, or would you put it like further up the list. And the reason I guess he put it towards the end is because it's not about Bitcoin, and two, it was written before Bitcoin was even invented, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. The sovereign individual should definitely be at the end. You should never read that first. You need to understand, which is why I think in reality you need to understand money first, which is why I put the Bitcoin standard first. And then there's some Bitcoin books that come subsequent to that, which I think means, okay, you understand money now. Now let's get Bitcoin, a couple of those in. And then once you hit the sovereign individual and the fourth turning, that is now more macroeconomics and just civilization. How do humans interact on a global scale? And you're not ready for that kind of shit yet. Most people you're just not. You can't comprehend it. You don't understand how fucking money works, which is like the oil that just keeps civilization going. So you have to start the Bitcoin standard, and it is tough. Like, it's not easy to get into it. I think Saifedean has still written it as entry level as he can, but you still need to spend 3 hours on learning that. You just need to sit there and fucking read it. And if you want to do it in 10-minute stints or 15-minute stints, guess what? You ain't going to get it. It's just going to go in one ear, out the other. You're not going to link all the 15 minutes together. You need to sit down for half a day and fucking spend 3 hours on the Bitcoin standard. Once you've done that, now you're ready for the next level. And the next level is so much more because it's exposed that the fact the whole financial system before that has been corrupt and has lied to you. So
we've seen it before.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much what the sovereign individual says, this is where we should be.
Yeah.
We're in the information age, whereas in fact, we're stopped because of this. And guess what? It's happened numerous times before, like the Church, the Roman Empire, the Ming Dynasty, everything. It goes through all these problems where they've inflated the money. And actually, what have they been doing alongside the money? Trying to keep you in control with silly laws.
It's quite safe to say the 4Bs podcasts are toxic as hell. Yeah. And if you are only going to read one book, to start off with the Bitcoin standard. If you've not read the Bitcoin standard, don't talk to us.
Yeah. You're not going to make it.
Never going to make it. Exactly where I was going to go.
If you've got a signed version of the Bitcoin standard, then you're going to make it.
I've been pestering Sean in work to read it for an eternity now. Well, it's been about 6 months. Saying, oh, yeah, I'll read it. And so every time I just sit him, I'm like, have you read it? No. I just haven't had time. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? What do you do each night? You're playing FIFA, jacking off to OnlyFans. And he's like, I don't pay for OnlyFans. I'm like, go Pornhub. But still, it'll cost you a tenner. You will learn so much, and you need to know this now. And it's just that time preference. It's the issue. It's not investing in yourself. Right. Do we want to go on something less serious, or do we have anything less serious? I think it's not that lighthearted this week.
No, we have got a few. We got a few.
Yeah.
So we're still on this one. I'm trying to find the quote that I wanted from this article.
Is it something about dildos?
Yeah.
I was going to say, I don't really think dildos and Bitcoin go together.
No. So basically, it's one of our articles, which was right. It's the US dollar is going to zero, but Bitcoin will be extreme, but it'll have price. It'll be volatile, but ultimately it's going to win. So this is Jim Rogers. And I think it's the chairman of Beeland Interests and co-founder of the Quantum Fund and the Soros Fund Management.
Yeah, I saw that name linked in there, and I was just like, pure evil.
Is that George Soros?
Does it worry you that you may be involved in an asset which is going to ruin the world because George Soros is involved?
Come on, George Soros is involved in fucking everything. So if he has some Bitcoin as well, then
tell us what he's not involved in, right? It's probably easier.
Yeah.
If there's anything.
Was it him or Rothschild I saw a picture of, and it's just like, where's his soul? It's been lost.
Yeah, he's just yeah, it sounds positive, right? Because this article, what was it written in? Oh, so it's only in the Crypto Time. All right, it's bollocks. Yeah. But still, they say that essentially the US dollar could go to zero, and Bitcoin is going to be volatile, but ultimately it can be the successor at the end of this. But yeah, the articles and the quotes are linking are quite weak now that I'm reading it in hindsight. So who knows, eh? Who knows? The fact that George Soros is already all over this just makes me want to cringe. So I have to close the article. Move on to the next one.
When's he going to be dead? Or is he just going to live forever?
Oh, man. Yeah. He's like Warren Buffett and his freaking Charlie Munger. They just keep fucking going. Like, how long can they rule the world for? They've been ruling it since the 70s. Like, give it a fucking break.
If you look at the pictures of Soros, he looks a bit of a waxwork, so he might not actually be real. He might be dead already.
Yeah, maybe he is.
Yeah, Rogers.
That was an interesting one, actually. I came across Lenin had been embalmed in, the Moscow Red Square, and that was in like 1920s or something. So people still go to visit him and see him, and it's pretty freakish. I think it's actually about 98 years ago. So 1920 it was.
God, I have no idea. I wonder if he looks like George Soros does now.
Yeah, so let's not put it past them. It has been done before.
They're just propping everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Not like one of those things at the back of his head.
Yeah, CGI.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that they siphon 19-year-old blood out of young kids into their bodies. These guys are disgusting.
They're going down a right rabbit hole of conspiracy theories there.
No, that's not even a conspiracy theory. That's just factual. That was back in Silicon Valley. It was literally known where if you put young people's blood into old people's body, it kept them young. And so rich people would pay young people to come and give them blood transfusions. And it still happens today. Young people go and give blood transfusions to old people, and it keeps them alive. That's known to be good for you. It's just
what happens if he ended up asking some young person? It was someone like you.
Then I'd make a lot of money, and they would get shit blood.
Be fucking dead halfway through transfusion.
But dude, do you know half my blood is whiskey?
So in the article, I think the good things from it. So Rogers reckoned Russia, China, Brazil, Iran, and as alternatives to the dollar. So really got some countries, some quite big ones, but I just don't think Bitcoin's there for those countries yet, is it? I think they're probably looking at it, kind of going, what's going on? But the kind of countries which are going to go towards Bitcoin are going to be the ones that are fucked, like Turkey, Central America, even some of South America, and Africa as well.
Got it.
Right. I agree. So how about we move on to one of our last stories, but not quite. But the 19th millionth Bitcoin is going to get mined in the next 23 days.
Mm-hmm.
So never luck. I think you added it.
Yeah, that's right. So what does this mean? So for anybody that has been living under a rock, there's 21 million Bitcoins. So therefore, if we get to the 19th, or not if, when we get to the 19 millionth Bitcoin to be mined, approximately March 10th, that will mean that 90% of all the Bitcoin blocks will have been mined. So that naturally should put a spike into things because everything has become scarce. I believe, and someone jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a belief that there's around about 4 million Bitcoin lost just over time. So what we've also seen is the fact that people understand game theory. And the game theory is exactly how Bitcoin works, in the fact that as the game continues and goes on longer and longer, the price will get stronger and stronger.
It's a shame I lost mine in a boating accident.
Yeah.
And I donated what I had left to Ukraine.
Yeah. Be careful. Your account might get frozen.
I gave all my Bitcoin to Caitlyn Jenner.
Any reason?
She only accepted Dink Donk. So that happened to be, I was all in on Dink Donk. So I just sent it all to her. But yeah, it's a nice little article, isn't it? So
there's some bits about extreme hodling as well. So 489 coins held from, when was it, 2011? And then 407 coins held from, I want to say it's like 2013 or 14. So the first set wouldn't have cost that much, whereas the second set, I think it would have cost, was it 300 grand at the time?
Yeah, they're saying $355,000 at the time. So that's a lot. Because it links into the next article. But ultimately, that is some extreme hodling and what you call, long time preference.
Yeah. The next article is just completely insane, right? Because there's been a wallet that has been totally inactive. Like literally nothing has happened on it since 2010. And the first transaction only happened in October 28th, 2010, which pretty much just went, look, they've received 489 Bitcoin. That address has just stayed dormant ever since then. So for 12 years. And that Bitcoin has gone up from $50 and is now worth $20 million. And suddenly that wallet comes into life, and that person starts selling the Bitcoin that's in that address. So obviously, like straight away, all the conspiracy theories come out, which is this is Satoshi, he's coming back, who knows? And who knows what is going on with this address? If I was to hazard a guess, it would probably be someone has just found an old computer and they've been formatting it, looking for Bitcoin addresses, and then they've randomly found one that has some Bitcoin on it, and they've hit the gold mine, because this isn't Satoshi. Satoshi doesn't leave his addresses and his.
And it's always meant to be around millions of people's belief, isn't it?
Yeah. He hasn't got little addresses with 400 in. He's got about 1 million Bitcoin. Yeah, exactly. Not.
It could be Craig Wright's.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting though, isn't it? Because I would love to understand the background as to why now? Because ultimately, when we were at our peak, the 20 million could have been 40 million. So why didn't it move then? And if they've hodled, could be Russian. But it's a fair shout. Could be Russian, could be Ukrainian. Again, we've gone through the use cases as to why. But ultimately, it's how do you decide now is the right time? Everybody's got their moon. We've talked about it. But there's got to be something behind why now and how as well. Because it wasn't easy back in 2010.
They haven't taken the money out, have they? They've just moved it. Yeah. So it's just the fact that they're getting ready. And this is why I'm saying like Russia or Ukraine, that they're moving their assets around, to get ready to flee or something.
It could be. Who knows?
Can we just?
This is 2010, right? Like 2010 is so early in Bitcoin. literally, right, they say that these 500 Bitcoin are worth $500 at the time, but in reality, like Bitcoin didn't have a price. This is so early. So if there was a nation state involved, this is crazy, right? It's.
I'm not saying a nation state. I'm saying an individual from those countries.
Oh right, okay, but even then, right? So you've fired up your computer program. You've mined some Bitcoin. It's essentially worth zero. And then over the last 12 years, it's gone from 0 to 20 million. And all the way through that, it's been worth various amounts. Tell me a person.
You don't forget that.
Yeah, but
tell me a person that hasn't forgot. Yeah,
it's not forgetting. It's that time preference again. So it's someone who has belief in Bitcoin. And we've gone, I know it's going to be a big asset, but at the moment, this is my need is now. And that's why I'm using Russia and Ukraine as the example. They're like, shit, I need to get out of here. I need to get my life in order. I need to flee. And I'm going to have to use some of this money now.
You say that could just be age as well. You know, like somebody who's...
You saying it could be George Soros because he's almost dead.
Yeah. Either George Soros or Biden himself.
If Biden bought Bitcoin, he wouldn't remember now.
Well, he's had nearly 12 years to try and remember his password to try and get in. That's all.
Doubt he knows his own name.
Not unless it's on the teleprompter.
On the boys, should we do the final story of the week?
Yeah. And finally, I always think about, obviously I've got to be quiet in this house. There's people asleep right now. You know, for those that don't know, we're recording and it's just gone 10:30. But I always think of Bruce Buffer when I look at And Finally.
It's time.
Yeah. You can do it. You've got no one in the house.
No.
Go for it. So our And Finally story of the week is about Elon and chat inflation and Bitcoin. So take us off, Mr. Dr. Evil 10%.
So this is one which he's talking about what should you own. So it's a thread which Elon started. Well, actually, I've clicked on. I've noticed he's changed his name to Elona.
I was going to say, and his picture as well.
What's his picture?
Has he changed it?
He's changed his picture.
Elona.
He
changed his picture. I recognize he changed his picture, but he's put an A on the end of his name.
Yeah. So
I love it. The fact he's taking the piss, but
so he's saying, what are your thoughts about problem inflation? And of course, Michael Saylor drops in, talking about US consumer inflation will near all-time highs, and Saylor just talking too much sense. And Elon and Musk actually gets a serious response. He actually gives a serious response. He talks about what people should buy. So they're saying, for general advice, it's better to own physical things like a home or stock in companies you think make good products rather than dollars where inflation is high. And then he caveats it or ends it with, I still own and won't sell my Bitcoin. Great. Ethereum and Doge. So I kind of, I do look at it and think it's a nice thread that Elon's actually given general sound advice, but then he's put Doge and Ethereum in.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think anyone needs like an online photo album. And Doge, it was one of those things where you got it pumped for a bit, but it's not pumping back up now, is it?
No. Where do we go with Elon? I'm just looking through his timeline of things.
Man, he's right this week, right? I fucking love Elon again. Completely love him because obviously I I fell out of love with him. I've loved him for the last 10 years. And then he started Dogecoining, shitcoining. And I was just like, look, I can't be friends with you anymore. And he cut you off.
You're going to have to put some romantic backdrop music because you just said that, right?
Yeah, just super heartfelt.
Yeah.
But then he's come back. He's coming back. He is coming back. And he's doing memes about the Ukrainian war. He is talking about inflation. He's challenging Putin to a one-on-one combat and going, I've got a fucking flamethrower. He can have a bear. Like, he's becoming Elon again. I'm like, oh my God, this is the guy that nails business, goes fuck you to the system, and just does his thing. This is what I loved Elon for. And it's really hard for me to look past the fact that he did promote Ethereum and Dogecoin in these tweets. But if I do, and now I am starting to do it, it's still Elon. Elon is still the guy. He's still the man. He's still the guy that I still don't believe he is brought over yet. I don't think they own him. They should. They should own him now. Like, he is so high profile and so rich that there should be so many types of sanctions and regulations they could put over his companies that he should be 100% owned by the US government. But the way he talks, it sounds like he's not. And I still love him for that. And yeah, I love this end story, which is just him and Saylor talking about how to hedge against inflation. Saylor comes in and just goes, look, come on, it's Bitcoin, right? And Elon goes, yeah, well, of course, you're going to say that, but maybe it's property and businesses as well. And look, they're both right. They're both right, which essentially is, don't trust the government for fuck all. If anything you put the trust in government, i.e. cash, that will go up in flames. Everything you should protect your value and your wealth should be in your business, your investments, Bitcoin, in something else, in something that has like intrinsic value, not in fiat currency. That's what they want. Both Saylor and Musk both agree on. So just follow that. Just follow that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fair point. It's been a bit of a weird pod, this one, because we've gone from being a bit silly at the start to be more serious in the second half. It's usually the other way around. I think we probably got banned and turned off in various households for the first 10 minutes.
That's what we're out to do, right? Again, if you're getting banned, it means it's working.
Switch us off. Switch us off.
Switch us off. Yeah. That's the movement we're looking for.
On this. Sign us out.
Cool. Okay. That was pod number 47, once again brought to you by the world's most bullish podcast. I have been Sir Neverlook. He has been Dr. Evil 10%. He has been Mr. All In, and she was never here. We're talking about Mrs. No Show. So without further ado, thanks for listening. Sticking to the end. Peace out.